I must rise above the flames.
Welcome back, Ronin Renegades. I'm Lupinefiasco. This is Daily FaB Gameplay, and today we are playing our favorite FaB Rising Rebellion. For anyone who's new to the channel, welcome to the Resistance. What we do here is review replays of games I played on the Talishar.net client days or weeks ago, after enough time has passed that I lose my bias and can more objectively judge the quality of my games. I will talk through turn cycles and give my thoughts on the line I would take now, then compare that to the line I took then at the time of recording. We either learn from my mistakes or reinforce good play patterns with the overall goal of tightening and optimizing our gameplay in the future to take down paper events and walk away with that shiny, shiny cardboard. If you would like to check out the list I'm playing here or try it for yourself, there is a FaB deck link in the video description below. While you're down there, if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to my channel. It is the best free way to support me and to make sure that you see every new episode of Daily FaB Gameplay in your video feed. There is also a link to my Blue Sky, my Discord, and my Patreon, where you can get access to the matchup guide for this deck and for all of my decks forever. Now, without further ado, let's jump right into the action. Queuing up into Azalea should make us feel a little concerned, honestly. This is historically kind of a toss-up for FaB. A lot of it comes down to how many red in the ledgers the Azalea plays. We have a decent amount of armor to try to block it. We have some defense reactions. As with Aurora, our armor does not exist unless the card played is red in the ledger, right? It's the only on-hit that we really actively care about. Azalea has some other effects that can screw with us, hamstring shot, anything with inertia or seek and destroy tied to it, but we can play through it, we'll go above rate. The only thing that Azalea can do to us that really ruins our turn is red in the ledger, and so we want to save our armor for that. We have 5 effective armor that we can block with, at least the first time. A defense reaction can bring us up to 9, a card from hand can bring us up to 12. And that might not be enough. It's usually not enough for red in the ledger with 3 pumps. But if it's red in the ledger plus 2, up to a total of 11, we can cover that and then swing back with a 3-card hand and use Mask of the Pouncing Lynx to cover for a 4th card, getting a minimum of 6. So really that is your takeaway for the Azalea matchup plan. If it is not named red in the ledger, don't use armor to block it. We lost the die roll, we're going first. I don't know necessarily if that's even good or bad, but it is sort of unfortunate with this hand. Normally I would be happy to test Azalea's hand for blocks. About half of her deck is full of 2 blocks, and so if we could send a turn like 3-3-1-6, right, if this display loyalty or E-Strike was a Draconic starter, then I would attack with those, because I would be able to set up an arsenal afterwards and push some damage on turn 0, but given that is not the case, we are having to debate whether we want to let Azalea filter to try and set anything up, or if we want to just pass the turn. I believe the best way to navigate this hand is pitch Prowess of Agility into FaB to pick up the Phoenix Flame, then play the Phoenix Flame and follow up with Display Loyalty. We make a fealty, we arsenal E-Strike, and we pass the turn. It isn't great, but as far as ways to actually navigate this turn, we don't have too many options, and if we just pass the turn and like arsenal E-Strike, then we're kind of reliant on drawing a single starter off the top of our deck, which we are not guaranteed to do. So this lets us set up a fealty, which can be used with the E-Strike as a pseudo starter. It lets us just bank a fealty, and I think that is fine. We let Azalea filter 1 time, but that's okay. We don't really need to worry about her getting off 1 card. So the hand that we draw into is sort of awkward, just in that we have an E-Strike in arsenal, we have an Oath of Loyalty in hand, and we have a finisher in hand. So the E-Strike would normally be acting as a finisher, but because we have Lava Burst, maybe we don't want to E-Strike. I mean, this hand is not bad. If we just get to play it, we can play Oath of Loyalty, followed by Ignite, activate FaB, pick up and play the Phoenix Flame, play Rising Resentment, then E-Strike for 7, bottoming Lava Burst, and that ends up being a 4, 7, 9, 11, 18 damage 5-card hand. It's not great, but not bad either. We play out of Arsenal, which is fine, because we don't end up getting some bad card stuck in our arsenal after Red in the Ledger. Can we really cover this Endless Arrow? I think the answer is no. We would have to give up our armor, or we would have to block with one of our 3 blocks and 2 of our 2 blocks, which just doesn't sound good. This Endless Arrow doesn't really have anything tied to it. Yes, there's inertia, but we're planning on playing out 5 cards anyway. I'm kind of assuming this is not the only thing that Azalea has going on. Maybe she has 2 arrows in hand, in which case her plan would be Snapdragon Scalers, Bullseye Bracers, shoot an arrow. I assume she doesn't have any more buffs, or she would have played them, so if I can put Azalea on having a follow-up to this Endless Arrow, then I'd probably care more about blocking whatever the second arrow is, which I assume is the more devastating one. So we're just going to say no blocks on this Endless Arrow and wait and see what the follow-up is. If the follow-up is Red in the Ledger for 6, then our blocks look a little more obvious. The 7 is difficult. The fact that there is no real on-hit makes me not care all that much, so I feel like I am in a good position to just not block this and wait and see what the follow-up is. Make Azalea make me care about blocking. That's really what FaB is a lot of the time. Sometimes we draw clunkers with a bunch of 3-card blocks, or 3 block cards that don't have go again, but when we draw a hand like this where we really want to go, that's when we can afford to just make Azalea make us care. So we get the Snapdragon Scalers. Having already used Death Dealer, Azalea needs to either use Bullseye Bracers or play an E-Strike. She does play out the Red in the Ledger, which is going to attack for 6. We know that one of the 2 cards in Azalea's hand is Endless Arrow. The only card that Azalea could have that makes this a problem is Endless Arrow, but at the same time, I'm assuming Azalea would have played the, not Endless Arrow, Rain Razors. I'm assuming Azalea would have played the Rain Razors to get 2 more damage. If we block for 6 using Oath of Loyalty and Lava Burst, and Azalea does have Rain Razors, then that sucks. We got caught. Because our plan now is just E-Strike for, well, our plan now is block for 6 with Oath and Lava Burst, then play Rising Resentment, and follow up with E-Strike for 7, bottoming Ignite, which plays around inertia and lets us keep our fealty. If Azalea has Rain Razors, then yeah, she gets us, and we end up losing 3 points of damage because we didn't block. But that's a chance I'm willing to take. We could cover this with Flamescale Furnace, Flight Path, and probably Oath of Loyalty, and then play Rising Resentment, Ignite, activate FaB, pick up and play Phoenix Flame, Lava Burst for 7, E-Strike for 7, bottoming Lava Burst. But I don't want to use armor for this Red in the Ledger. This one is not that bad. It doesn't have Dominate. I don't really impact my damage all that much by blocking there, considering that we have to block with something. So this seems fine. We'll push 10. We get ahead on life total compared to Azalea. Maybe she blocks this with Endless Arrow that may or may not be in her arsenal. We have just seen her use Snapdragon Scaler and Bullseye Bracers, so that was kind of it for her pop-off turn. Now she is just reliant on these dominated 11 or 14 power Red in the Ledgers, and if she can't string those together, then we have an opening to get back into this game. E-Strike for 7 goes unblocked. We're going to even up the life total and see what Azalea's follow-up is. Inertia, of course, does nothing, and we get to keep our fealty. This hand is fine, plays itself. Play both Draconic Head Jabs, pitch Dragon Power into Emberblade, activate FaB, play the Phoenix Flame, play Blaze Headlong. Depending on how much damage Azalea takes, if we're pushing 3, 6, 9, 10, 14, put Azalea down to 19, maybe consider breaking Mask of the Pouncing Lynx. We'll have to see. I don't really want to block with this hand if I can avoid it, because it does not block well. Dragon Power is an effective 3 power on offense or defense, because it does not pay for the Phoenix Flame. We don't need it to. We have Brand with Cinderclaw, Rising Resentment, and Blaze Headlong, which gets us our free FaB activation. Got a Bolt and Shot coming for 10 with Dominate. There are 2 on-hits tied to this. The Inertia is whatever, because we can just play out this hand. The Blood Rot is 2 more damage, effectively making this 12. We don't have enough armor to cover this without blocking with Mask of the Pouncing Lynx, even if I wanted to, so if this last card in Azalea's hand is a 0-cost arrow, then she just gets us. The worst card it could be is Codex of Frailty, but even then, Azalea doesn't have Tunic to pay for Retinal Ledger, so it would just be probably Endless Arrow. And Azalea just passes the turn. So we have a couple options as for how we want to play out this hand. Brand, Resentment, Blaze Headlong, activate FaB, play Phoenix Flame is all pretty straightforward. The question is, do we want to pitch Dragon Power into Emberblade, or do we want to pitch it into Bloodrot Pox? And do we want to break Pouncing Lynx this turn? Pouncing Lynx is the last question we need to answer, because we can deal with it later. If Azalea starts blocking, then the answer is no. If Azalea just takes 5 Chain Links and 14 damage, then yeah, I do want to break Pouncing Lynx and find Salt the Wound. We are currently not getting our Shuko trigger, so breaking Pouncing Lynx for Lava Burst or Salt the Wound gets us damage that we would otherwise miss. Also, if Azalea just takes a bunch of damage, then Salt for 8 is enough damage that, yeah, I'll break Lynx earlier than I like to, because it's just an obscene rate. We can just start with Brand, Resentment, Blaze Headlong, see how Azalea blocks. If she just takes 10 damage there, suddenly Pouncing Lynx is looking pretty good, as is Dragon Power, because rather than being worth 3 offensively or 2 defensively, it becomes worth 4 offensively. The Emberblade attacks for 3 and buffs Salt the Wound by 1. So I would be more incentivized to pitch it to Emberblade rather than Bloodrot Pox, and I'm already pretty incentivized to pitch it to Emberblade because it represents 3 damage offensively and 2 damage defensively. Brand goes unblocked as well. Azalea is still a little too high on life total for me to want to break Pouncing Lynx now, and because Azalea might just be in full offense mode, I don't want to break Pouncing Lynx before I know whether it is going to be for Lava Burst or Salt the Wound. Usually it just breaks for 6, but if we can break it for 8 here, I want to know that that is an option. So potentially sequencing this turn incorrectly, it might have been that I'm supposed to save the Blaze Headlong, but I don't think that Azalea is going to block with the Skull Cap, and if she gives me a full card to stop the Phoenix Flame, then not only would I not have wanted to break Pouncing Lynx, but I would have felt good about my turn. And now, considering that Azalea has taken 5 hits, is it 19 and our Salt the Wound attacks for 8? 100% gonna play it. I'm gonna go for the line. It's just high value. We put Azalea down to 11. That is the best opportunity we're gonna get to use our Pouncing Lynx. Normally I want to wait longer, make her feel the threat of Phoenix Flame, dealing effectively 7 damage on a Draconic Starter, Pitch Blue for Emberblade, activate 5 Phoenix Flame line, but I'm going to take my 8 where I can. This is a race. That was a high value turn, and it just means that I don't need to worry about getting locked out for the rest of the game and not being able to use my Lynx. The hand that we draw into is kind of okay. It was a lot better before Azalea knocked for Red in the Ledger. Right now my best line is E-Strike for 7. If I had had more freedom to attack in this turn, then using Fealty for Art of Dragon Fire looks really good. But as it is, I just don't have that option. We've got a Take Aim and a Read the Glide Path. Azalea does have Tunic, so the question is this third card a buff? Is Azalea going to pitch it to Red in the Ledger? Is she going to use her Tunic for Red in the Ledger and Arsenal the last card? Because this is only coming in for 11, I mean, we can't block it, but it does give us a little more freedom to try and set something up. currently we have 5 armor block, and Loyalty Beyond the Grave would block for 3 if we played it from Arsenal on the next dominated Red in the Ledger. So between our two options for this turn, we're going to block with either Art of Dragonfire, E-Strike, or Loyalty Beyond the Grave. I think Loyalty in Arsenal is our best call because it gives us the ability to block an 11 power dominated Red in the Ledger on a future turn. If it's a 14 power dominated Red in the Ledger, damn, that sucks. But if it's 11, we can cover it with Armor, D-React, and a 3 block from hand, and then crack back with 3 cards, which I like. So if I'm looking to Arsenal Loyalty, I'm going to block with either E-Strike or Dragonfire, and then play whichever one is left. E-Strike for 7 puts a brand on the bottom of my deck, and I lose my Fealty. Fealty lets me play Art of Dragonfire, pitching brand with Cinderclaw to do 2 and then 5. Really, I don't think it matters. I am probably supposed to play Art of Dragonfire so that I get 2 guaranteed damage. If I E-Strike for 7, Azalea can block it with 2 3 blocks from hand, and I only push 1 point of damage rather than the 2 I would get from Dragonfire in that case. And because I lose my Fealty either way, Dragonfire is probably the best line. It isn't the line I'm going to take here. I'm going to block with Dragonfire, E-Strike for 7, and then Arsenal Loyalty. But in hindsight, I think that's wrong. We are going to 13 after this Red in the Ledger. I am not concerned about losing the game before I get my armor value. If Azalea still had Snapdragon Scalers, maybe I would think about blocking with Flamescale Furnace here, just to make sure that I get all of my armor value before the game ends. I really don't want to die. Having blocked with Furnace for the first time, and God forbid I lose by 1 because I couldn't block with it the second time. But I'm blocking for 3 here. I'm going to end my turn at 13. I have time. I think it is unlikely that Azalea would be able to kill me from 13 over in just 1 turn rather than over 2. So blocking with Art of Dragonfire, this locks me into E-Strike for 7, lose my Fealty. There's no way to keep it. There's never a way to keep it. If I used it for Dragonfire, then it would still be used. And then I put Loyalty Beyond the Grave into Arsenal at the end of my turn and set myself up to block a dominated era. See what Azalea's line is here. She could take 7 and go down to 4 and try to do something with 5 cards. Without Tunic, her best line is going to be pump, pitch 1 cost arrow for 14. I guess she could go pump, 0 cost arrow for 16. But in either case, we live. And if it does not have Dominate, and if it doesn't have a relevant on hit, then we even get to crack back with, as far as Azalea knows, 5 cards. This being Codex of Frailty is like horrendously bad for Azalea because she doesn't have a way, presumably, to use the cards in her hand. Now, if she has Pump, Codex, or Bolt and Shot, that's great. She gets 10 damage with on hits, and I need to care about it. But because I have a D-React in Arsenal, or anything in Arsenal, the Codex is already not that bad. And here, Azalea needing to play the Codex just puts her down a card, and because I don't lose a card, I'm incredibly up in this situation. I think the Codex in Arsenal, while generally good, just bit her in the ass for this line, where coming off of a Red in the Ledger, I just didn't really have a lot to do, and I attacked as best I could, and Azalea blocked as best she could, but having all those arrows really was just a problem. So we've got Red in the Ledger coming in for 5. This does not have Dominate, so I don't need to use my armor. I don't need to use my D-React from Arsenal. I could block from hand, but this hand is actually pretty good. I need to think about the sequencing I want to do, so I could block with Flamescale Furnace and Prowess of Agility, and then my turn would be Ronin Renegade, play Ignite, discount FaB, activate FaB, play Phoenix Flame, play Salt the Wound. The Salt would not get my Shuko trigger, so I am attacking for 3, 2, 2, and then something, a maximum of 5, which would be a total damage of 12 if Azalea just doesn't block leading up to the Salt the Wound, but I assume that she will. She blocks the Ronin, and then 2, 2, 4. That does not threaten lethal. Azalea is going to have a 5-card hand. 4 cards if she blocks the Ronin Renegade with a 3 block. So I could block with Furnace and my defense reaction, Loyalty Beyond the Grave, which then lets me do Ronin, Ignite, Emberblade, Activate FaB, pick up and play Phoenix Flame, Salt the Wound. We are frail, so the sword only attacks for 2, and that line is 3, 2, 2, 2, potential of 6. But here's a sweet line that I didn't see the first time. I did edit part of this gameplay out. The correct block here is Flamescale Furnace and Loyalty Beyond the Grave from Arsenal, because the correct sequence for this turn is not something that I thought I would do when I originally reviewed Dragonscaler Flight Path. The correct sequence here is to play Ronin Renegade, Ignite, pitch Prowess to attack with Searing Emberblade, which costs 1 because of the Ignite, use Flight Path on the Emberblade to give it an additional attack, use my 2 floating resources to attack with the Emberblade again, then activate FaB, pick up and play Phoenix Flame, and attack with Salt the Wound. So the sequence is 3, 2, 2, 2, 2, potential of 8, 7. Which is just a supremely cool line. It sucks that we're frail and that we only get to Emberblade for 4 overall. If it was a 1-card 6 with Flight Path, that would be very, very good. But with Azalea at 10, the fact that we are threatening 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 18 damage off of 5 cards means that she needs to block with quite a few cards from hand, and we're at 13. So if Azalea keeps 2 cards, we are in fantastic shape. There's no way that she can kill us with 2 cards, and she will be at a low enough life total that if we get to play out a 2 or 3 card hand, that's going to be enough to strip cards and just let the game spiral until she eventually dies. So as I said, Ronin, Ignite, Emberblade, Emberblade, Phoenix Flame, Salt the Wound. And we're just waiting to see how Azalea blocks it. If she, for whatever reason, blocked everything, blocked the Ignite, blocked the 2 Emberblades, let the Phoenix Flame go through, then I'm just arsenaling Salt the Wound. At the same time, even in this case, there is an argument for arsenaling the Phoenix Flame to act as a Draconic starter if I just brick my next turn. I'm not going to have Flight Path anymore to bail myself out, even at a cost. So there is a justification for arsenaling the Phoenix Flame here, but if Azalea is letting damage through, telling me that she wants to keep this hand, then no, I'm just getting as many hits on the chain as I possibly can. Currently, Salt the Wound would attack for 6. The Phoenix Flame is going to use the Shuko trigger, but if this Phoenix Flame hits, which I think it is likely to do so, Azalea could give Tunic here without too much loss, but probably needs the Skull Wrap, Cross Wrap. Then Salt the Wound still attacks for 6, and now Azalea needs to give us 2 cards from hand to not die. Or a 3 block and all of her equipment, which would also be great for me. Remorseless would have been absolutely terrifying there. I'm very glad to see Remorseless get used as a block rather than an attack. The hand that we draw into is honestly not very good. I do wish that I had the Phoenix Flame in Arsenal. Not that I think it was the right call to Arsenal the Phoenix Flame instead of attacking with it, but Phoenix Flame in Arsenal would be pretty nice. We get to Ignite into Mounting Anger into something, depending on whether the Mounting Anger hits. If it does, we can pitch either Dragonfire or Breaking Point to FaB to pick up the Phoenix Flame and then banish it to the Mounting Anger, so that it would attack for 3 with the Shuko buff and the Mounting Anger buff. Then we could pitch whichever 1 cost we have left to Flamescale Furnace to generate 2 resources and attack with the Searing Emberblade. Or if the Mounting Anger doesn't hit, then we would Ignite Mounting Anger gets blocked, pitch Art of Dragonfire to attack with Breaking Point for 5, puts 3 Draconic Chainlinks on the chain, activate FaB, pick up an Arsenal, the Phoenix Flame. We don't need to block this Bolton Shot for 3 with Dominate. We don't care about this. It doesn't have Go Again. There's no reload tied to it. Even if there was, Azalea doesn't have Tunic to play Red in the Ledger, which is the literal only arrow that we care about in this case. So we lead with Ignite. The Ignite gets blocked by 2 pieces of armor, which is great for us. Then we're going to attack with the Mounting Anger. Mounting Anger would need to be covered by 2 cards. I'm assuming Azalea doesn't have a defense reaction here. Whether the Mounting Anger gets blocked or not dictates how we play the rest of our turn. Even if it does get blocked, we could still take the FaB into Emberblade line, which is dealing 5 damage overall, but pitching Art of Dragonfire to play Breaking Point still does 5 damage, and splitting it up between 3 and 2 or 5 really doesn't impact how this turn is going to play out. But playing the Breaking Point gives me a card in Arsenal where playing Phoenix Flame Emberblade does not. So this line is just objectively better. It does not put Azalea into any worse of a position, and it only puts us into a better position. Breaking Point, of course, does not have an on-hit effect. We did not rupture it. We do put Azalea down to 1, take all of her armor, Arsenal of Phoenix Flame, that we end up not really needing because we drew Draconic Starters, and Azalea goes for the blind. Azalea whiffs. Even if she didn't, it wouldn't matter. We're at 10. We can afford to take any 0-cost arrow, even Codex into Endless Arrow. Doesn't hurt us. And now we can just win the game. So the correct sequence here is, I believe, Rising Resentment, Phoenix Flame, Emberblade, E-Strike, Bottom Shelter from the Storm. There are a bunch of different ways we could play out this turn. I don't believe there is a good sequence that lets us play the Phoenix Flame for 1, close the chain, and then start the chain over and activate FaB later. Do we play Brand with Cinderclaw or pitch it into Emberblade? We want to pitch it into Emberblade. For one thing, it's just good practice. We could have played Brand first and then the Phoenix Flame, but 1-3 is harder for Azalea to deal with than 2-2, because Azalea has many hue blocks. So if she needs to use a 3 block on a 1, then that's great. If she has to use a 2 on a 3, we win the game. And E-Strike does just get us there. We'll draw a card just in case Azalea somehow plays Flicker Trick in her deck, then, we're safe. But really interesting game here. It was fun to play this one out. Felt like our Azalea did play a decent number of red in the ledgers, and a couple turns didn't really line up for her, but that is the advantage of playing FaB in this matchup. Our hands are generally very consistent, and her hands do have the potential to be a little bricky. And even playing through those 2 red in the ledgers, 3 red in the ledgers even, our E-Strikes were very, very good for us over the course of that game. If you notice, I changed a few things. We're playing Prowess of Agility now. There are 3 in this deck. There are only 2 E-Pots, which were boarded out for this matchup. Mounting Anger is back in. Fire Tenant Strike First is out. Just trying to make the deck a little better with more 1-costs, and a little less prone to bricking with too many Art of Dragonfires, Bloods, Oath of Loyalties. I'm going to keep testing the deck, posting the videos. If it continues to go well, then I'll post a deck update sometime next week. Until then, enjoy the deck, get some reps, leave some feedback. I always appreciate hearing from all of you. I hope you enjoyed this game. I hope you learned something from it. If so, be sure to head jab that like button. As I said, my comments are always open for any questions or feedback. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my channel. It's free. It helps me out a lot. I have a Discord, a Blue Sky, and a Patreon, links to which are in the video description below. There's still time to win an Armory deck Aurora. Pop over to my video from last Friday, how to play Aurora. Leave a comment with your favorite Aurora card, and I will be putting all of your names into a random drawing on Sunday, and then contacting the winner directly. So not too late. Good luck if you do enter. Otherwise, I will see you back here later this week for more daily FaB gameplay. And until then, take care.